I hate him.
3 words destroyed my 8-year marriage. But it wasn't just that my wife said them. It was that she said them with such casual relief, like finally exhaling after holding her breath for years. And she had no idea I was listening. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment below and subscribe to this channel for more infidelity stories and cheating wife stories on YouTube. I'm Peter Jackson, 52 years old, and until that Tuesday evening, I thought I knew what a solid marriage looked like. Julia and I had built what everyone called couple goals: the house in the suburbs, the synchronized morning routines, the predictable date nights every second Friday. Our friends envied us. I thought we'd cracked the code that so many marriages fail to solve. But standing in my own hallway, frozen like a deer in headlights, I realized I'd been living in a carefully constructed lie. I'd come home early from work, first time in months. My boss had actually noticed I'd been putting in too many hours and practically shoved me out the door.
"Go surprise your wife,"
he'd said with a wink. The irony still burns. Our house smelled like those expensive candles Julia loved, sandalwood and cinnamon. I remember thinking how that scent used to mean home to me. Now it just reminds me of deception. I was loosening my tie, about to call out to her, when I heard her voice drifting from the living room. She was on the phone. I could tell by her tone. That slightly performative way she spoke when she wanted sympathy from her sister Mia.
I can't do this anymore, Mia,
she said, and something in her voice made me pause.
I hate him. I actually hate him.
My hand froze on my tie. My pulse thundered in my ears.
Every single thing about Peter irritates me now,
she continued, her voice gaining momentum like a dam finally breaking.
The way he breathes when he sleeps. God, it's like sleeping next to a broken air conditioner. The way he chews with his mouth slightly open, even though I've told him 1,000 times. The way he tells the same stories at parties, word for word, like he's reading from a script.
Each word was a calculated blow, precise and devastating. But she wasn't done.
You know what the worst part is?
Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but I heard every syllable.
I haven't loved him in years. Years, Mia. I'm 48 years old, and I'm wasting my life with a man who bores me to tears. But I can't leave. He's comfortable, safe. Like a pair of old shoes you can't throw away even though they're killing your feet.
I gripped the wall, my knuckles white, my wedding ring digging into my finger. 8 years. 8 years of morning kisses, of "I love you" before bed, of planning our retirement together. All of it, apparently, had been one-sided.
Sometimes I fantasize about just disappearing,
she continued.
Starting over somewhere where nobody knows me as Peter's wife, where I can be myself again instead of this suburban zombie I've become.
That's when I made my decision. Not in anger, not in the heat of the moment, but with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. If she wanted to disappear, I'd make it easy for her. I walked silently to our bedroom, pulled out my old duffel bag, and started packing. My hands moved on autopilot: clothes, toiletries, my father's watch, the essentials. As I zipped it up, I caught sight of our wedding photo on the dresser. Julia in white, radiant, her arms wrapped around me like I was her whole world. I almost laughed at the cruel joke of it all. Walking back down the hallway, I could hear her laughing at something Mia said. Light, carefree, like she hadn't just eviscerated our entire marriage. I stepped into the living room, duffel bag in hand. The transformation on her face was instant, from relaxed to shocked to calculating in the span of a heartbeat. She lowered the phone slowly.
Peter.
Her voice was different now. Careful.
What are you doing?
I let the silence stretch between us, watching her squirm. Let her wonder how much I'd heard. Let her feel what I'd been feeling for the past 10 minutes. Uncertainty. Fear. The ground shifting beneath her feet. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Julia," I said finally, my voice steady as granite. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. For someone who'd just given a dissertation on everything wrong with me, she seemed remarkably speechless. I turned and walked out. No dramatics, no slamming doors, just gone. The cool night air hit me like a baptism. I threw my bag in the car and drove, no destination in mind. The city lights blurred past as I tried to process what had just happened. My phone started buzzing after 5 minutes. Julia. I let it ring. At a red light, I finally looked at her texts.
Where are you? Peter, come home. We need to talk. You're being dramatic. Let's be adults about this.
Dramatic? I'd just discovered my wife had been pretending to love me for years, and I was being dramatic? I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and kept driving. I ended up at a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where nobody asks questions, and the coffee is strong enough to wake the dead. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with knowing eyes, took one look at me and poured a cup without asking.
Rough night?
She asked. You could say that, I managed. She nodded and left me alone with my thoughts, but I couldn't sit still. Couldn't stop replaying every moment of our marriage, looking for signs I'd missed. The way she'd stopped reaching for my hand, how she'd started going to bed earlier, always asleep by the time I joined her. The separate vacations that had become more frequent. My phone rang again. This time I answered.
Peter?
Julia's voice was shaky.
Where are you?
Does it matter? A pause.
I didn't mean what you think I meant.
What do I think you meant, Julia? Silence. Then.
How much did you hear?
Enough.
Peter, please, just come home. We can work this out.
Like you've been working it out for years? Staying with someone you hate because it's comfortable? Her sharp intake of breath told me I'd hit the mark.
That's not... It's complicated.
She stammered. No, actually, it's pretty simple. You don't love me. Haven't for years. The only complicated part was your decision to keep pretending.
Where are you?
She asked again, desperation creeping in. I hung up. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because as I sat in that diner, staring at my reflection in the dark window, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I wasn't going to crawl into a hole and feel sorry for myself. If Julia had been pretending for years, what else had she been lying about? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our joint bank statements. Funny how you never really look at these things when you trust someone. But now, with fresh eyes, I started noticing patterns. Withdrawals I didn't recognize. Charges at restaurants when she was supposedly at book club. Hotel charges in the middle of the day. My heart pounded, but not with hurt anymore. With something else. Anger, maybe. Or just the cold clarity of someone who'd been played for a fool and was done with it. I called Frank, my brother. We hadn't talked much lately. Julia always found reasons why we couldn't visit him.
Peter?
He sounded surprised.
It's been what, a year?
I need a favor, I said. You still have that friend who's a private investigator? The pause on the other end was loaded.
Yeah. You okay?
I will be. What I discovered over the next 2 weeks turned my heartbreak into something else entirely. The private investigator, a former cop named Donovan, was thorough. Those restaurant charges? They were always for two. Those midday hotel visits? Always on days when her mother was sick or she had client meetings. But the real kicker came when Donovan handed me a folder of photos. Julia with a man I recognized. Michael Smith, her business partner in the boutique marketing firm she'd started 3 years ago. The same business I'd invested $50,000 of my retirement savings into because I wanted to support her dreams. In the photos, they weren't discussing marketing strategies.
There's more.
Donovan said, his expression sympathetic but professional.
The business? It's hemorrhaging money, has been for months. But there have been some significant transfers to personal accounts, not yours.
I stared at the financial records, the pieces falling into place. She hadn't just been pretending to love me. She'd been using me as a safety net while she built a life with someone else. The woman who complained about my breathing had been quite literally taking my breath away, and my future with it. That night, I called my lawyer, not for a divorce, not yet. First, I had other plans. 2 months later, I stood in what used to be our living room. I'd timed my visit for when I knew she'd be home. The locks had been changed. I noticed that immediately. But I still had something she needed, my signature on the business loan renewal. She opened the door, and I almost didn't recognize her. New haircut, expensive clothes, the glow of someone living their authentic life. The transformation was remarkable. Apparently, my absence had been quite liberating.
Peter.
She tried to sound casual, but I caught the nervousness underneath.
I wasn't expecting you.
I'm sure you weren't. I held up the loan documents. Thought we should discuss this in person. She let me in, her movements careful, calculated. The house smelled different. New candles, bergamot and lemon. Michael's influence, no doubt. We sat across from each other at the dining table we'd picked out together 5 years ago. She tried small talk. I let her flounder. Finally, she got to the point.
About the loan renewal, I really need you to sign. The business is at a crucial junction.
Is it? I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots Donovan had provided. Her face went pale. Funny thing about crucial junctions, Julia. Sometimes they're really just dead ends.
Peter, I can explain.
No need. I stood up, leaving the unsigned documents on the table. I've already talked to my lawyer and the forensic accountant. And, well, Michael's wife was very interested in what I had to share. The color drained from her face completely now.
You didn't.
Turns out she thought Michael was working late all those times, too. Small world.
Peter, please, you don't understand. I never meant for any of this.
To happen? Or to be discovered? I moved toward the door, then paused. You know what the ironic part is. If you'd just been honest 2 months ago, if you just asked for a divorce like an adult, I would have given you everything. The house, the savings, a clean break. I loved you that much.
And now?
Her voice was barely a whisper. Now I know who you really are. And that person. She doesn't deserve my guilt or my generosity. As I walked out, she called after me.
This is revenge. This isn't you.
I turned back one last time. You're right. The old Peter would have tried to fix this, would have blamed himself, would have bent over backwards to make you happy. But that Peter, he died the night he heard his wife say she hated him. This is who I am now. Someone who knows his worth. The divorce was messy but swift. The forensic accountant's findings made sure of that. Michael's wife took him for everything in their divorce. The business folded within 3 months. Last I heard, Julia was living with her sister, working as a freelance consultant, telling anyone who'd listen how her ex-husband destroyed her life out of spite. But here's the thing about destruction. Sometimes it's necessary for rebuilding. I'm 54 now, 2 years past that night in the hallway. I live in a smaller house, but it's mine. I breathe as loudly as I want. I tell my stories at parties, and people actually laugh because I'm not trying to impress someone who secretly despises me. I wake up every morning without the weight of someone else's resentment on my chest. Frank and I are close again, Turns out Julia had been telling him for years that I was too busy to visit. He'd thought I'd chosen her over family. The truth brought us back together. I date occasionally. Nothing serious yet. I'm still learning who I am without the constant need to be someone else's comfortable option. But when I do meet someone, I pay attention now. To the small things, the signs, the distance between words and actions. Sometimes in quiet moments, I think about that night. About the man who stood frozen in his hallway, his world crumbling with every word. I don't pity him anymore. Without that moment of devastating clarity, he would have spent another decade, maybe 2, living a lie, shrinking himself to fit someone else's narrow definition of acceptable. The truth, even when it destroys you, is still a gift. Because once you see things clearly, you can finally stop living in the shadows of someone else's deception. And that breathing Julia complained about? Turns out it's sleep apnea, easily fixed with a simple device. She could have just asked me to see a doctor. But then again, it was never really about the breathing, was it? I'm just Peter. And for the first time in years, that's exactly who I want to be. If this story moved you, like this video, and subscribe for more infidelity stories, cheating wife stories, lost love chronicles, and inspirational stories about finding the strength to start over.